Hi, I'm Beep. My brother Honk is running the camera today. We are the Beep and Honk Show. We are drone bees and we answer tech questions. Today's question comes from Maddie, who asks, what is ELRS? What is EdgeTX? They get mentioned together a lot, but can you explain what they are? Well, that's a great question. ELRS informally stands for Express Long Range System. Most of the time, it's said as Express LRS or just ELRS. ELRS is a protocol, which is a set of rules for communication. There are words, grammar, and structure. But a protocol adds one extra layer of how you act and use the language. For example, if you cannot hear clearly, you make a gesture to be seen and you ask, "Can you speak up, please?" Or if someone's talking too loudly, you can gesture also and say, "I can hear you, it's too loud, please." So ELRS has this structure of language and behaviors bundled in. Each specific behavior is spelled out with a range of acceptable commands and responses. This becomes the complete protocol. An imaginary way to show how this works with flight in an airplane could be seen as so. The pilot, seated next to a trainee pilot at the controls, says, "Set throttle 30%, yaw trim to 0 degrees, roll trim to 0 degrees, pitch up 5 degrees. This order contained 4 separate channels of motion. Imagine that your radio transmitter is constantly barking out orders and the receiver just executes them all as they are taken in. Here's the twist. The trainee can also give data back to the pilot as well. The trainee can read out the values of gauges to the pilot in between orders. Imagine something like this. Airspeed 430 knots, heading 063, altitude 3,300 meters. Something like this being given back regularly. This is called telemetry. A receiver that supports telemetry also has a small antenna on it and can send back data to the transmitter, which also has a receiving antenna to get this data. What is described here is a simple but accurate analogy for how data, one way or both ways, flows between transmitter and receiver. Okay, let's move on to EdgeTX. This is software. It was written to implement the rules of the ELRS protocol and make it work. It also does much more, like standardize how the controls get configured and pass data along to be sent. There are other nice features of EdgeTX, like defining the menu screens, button, switch names, and more. On some older systems, you might see OpenTX, but that is just a previous version that's no longer being maintained. So, if there are many protocols with radio systems from other established vendors, why do drones favor using ELRS? Why add another? Well, there are several parts to this. The first is that companies guard their protocols and software standards very carefully. They are meant to be secrets. ELRS and EdgeTX are not. Both of these are open standards and published freely. It's like a recipe for a dish and the entire preparation process being completely free to anybody who asks. Drone development requires very high-speed control links, and being reliant on closed systems was risky, especially in the early days. There was also no agreement on what vendor to choose. Because of the specific needs of drones, there are also 3 features which make ELRS and EdgeTX really stand out. The first is being able to adjust packet rate. Remember our analogy of the pilot speaking to the trainee. Being able to increase the frequency of issuing commands results in finer control resolution and a smoother ride for the aircraft. The broadcast standard for legacy systems issues commands at 50 Hz or 50 times per second. ELRS supports many different rates, including 50, but also 100, 250, 333, 500, and all the way up to 1000 Hz. This is called the packet rate, and it is something proprietary systems typically do not let you change. They have their own closed standards that support higher packet rates, but the hardware also is expensive. You also cannot easily or legally develop hardware for sale that integrates with these systems. Be aware that there is one limit with a fast packet rate. If you double the packet rate, your total transmission range cuts in half. Physics never gives anything for free. The next major feature is that ELRS systems allow you to adjust the broadcast power for your signal. This is measured in milliwatts usually, and the more power means longer range of flight. This can matter because drones can fly out of the line of sight of the pilot with objects and terrain causing radio interference. Adding power helps overcome control instability. Proprietary systems tend to limit their power at around 100 milliwatts, sometimes even less. ELRS allows for 1000 milliwatts, or 1 watt, as a standard on many of the contemporary radios for sale at time of this video. Finally, the physical layout of the receiver is another big feature. Traditional radio systems break up each channel, like throttle and yaw and pitch and roll, into a separate plug. For a drone, you need at least 5 channels, because on top of those 4, you also need safety arming. This would mean 5 plugs with 15 total pins between them. The ELRS standard simplifies all this into just 1 pair of data connections and 1 pair of power leads that can be soldered directly into a flight controller to save space and weight. ELRS and EdgeTX started off being drone specific, but over time products have matured greatly and are often much cheaper than their closed source cousins. There are now even receivers with the traditional multiple channel ports, or PWM ports, available. This allows hobbyists to use ELRS radio transmitters with models that aren't just drones. Open standards made all this possible. So that's ELRS and EdgeTX explained in basic terms, and I hope this video helps you out, Maddie. Thanks everyone else for watching. Bye everybody!